Jacob, I wanted to take into Biden's, I guess Biden's mind and or lack thereof, yeah, or lack thereof. He said we talked about him last week. And he's very dangerous. Now it's come out this week that even the GOP it's calling for an examination, taking a cognitive test. He's come out and said some weird things again. But one of the things that it's you got him. We can laugh about it, but it's also very dangerous. He says that regarding cyber attacks, it can lead to a real shooting war with a major power. I mean, he's looking at these cyber attacks around the world, and he's going, well, it's going to lead to a war. He's implementing these laws about border patrol wearing masks, but the illegal immigration that coming in by by a million by now. It's what the numbers are. They don't have to have masks. They don't have to have any sort of test or anything like that. So it is very dangerous to have a man like this in power.
Look, when people begin to have dementia or incipient senility, okay, they become confused. The reason their speech is confused is because they are confused. Mm-hmm. The confusion leads to irrationality as well as inability to remember. Mm. That is what you are dealing with.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's people around him pulling strings. Yeah. Obviously, he's got the political prostitute waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
Willie Brown's, on the side girlfriend from California, wanted to be the first black female president. A woman as unqualified as Obama for the position. Again, I would love to see a black president like I would have liked to see the late Herman Cain have become president. Yeah, or Dr. Alan Keyes. There are black people I think would have been good presidents, but not Kamala Harris and not Barack Obama. Mm. Not these people. Not these affirmative action blacks. I wanted smart blacks.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got. So it's the politics of race, and it's basically he's there because they needed an establishment Democrat who could stop Bernie Sanders. That's all it was about. They needed an establishment Democrat to stop Bernie Sanders, so they got him. Mm. He's just a stooge, a senile stooge. That's all he is. Corrupt? Yes. Hypocrite? Yes. Liar? Yes. He always has been. But he no longer has the mental wherewithal to be an effective corruptocrat or an effective liar or an effective hypocrite. He's not good at that anymore. He's too confused. What he is a half senile stooge.
Hmm.
That's what he is.
Yeah. Some people have said that we'd probably be better off with Kamala Harris. At least she has all her faculties. What's your take?
Well, that's debatable as well, but
at least she won't be saying things like that. But I suppose she does say some other radical things as well.
Of course she does.
Yeah, and waiting in the wing of that will be Pelosi, and we'll talk about Pelosi. Well, let's talk about Pelosi for a minute. She calls GOP. The GOP Congress that goes against her, she calls them morons. This is science, because she says in one room you can wear a mask, and the other room you don't have to wear a mask. So they called her out on her hypocrisy. She says you guys are morons because you guys don't follow the science. Is she, Jacob? Should it just be a test for these congressmen or women who've been serving there for so long? They should take a test, at least a drug test.
Feinstein is another one. Although she's probably more compos mentis than Pelosi, and certainly more than Biden. No, I do think, I've always favored term limits. 2 terms in the Senate, that's it. You cannot have a third term in the Senate. You can run again in the future if your individual state allows it, but term limits for the House, term limits for the Senate, as many states have for their governors. I believe in term limits. I believe we need to eliminate professional politicians as a political class. They need to be exterminated like cockroaches and rats. Because that's all they are, in effect. They need to be exterminated like rodents and pests.
Science, science, science. She says, if you don't agree
It's
with me,
not science. Yeah.
I don't know if she. Now, a guy that I know is a scientist, Thomas Massey from Kentucky, he
Yeah.
opposed her, and he says, "Look, you could arrest me, but you don't know what you're talking about science," because she threatened to arrest any congressman or woman who did not obey her command at Capitol Hill. Now, she's gone mad. This is. I mean, what she thinks she's president now, or I don't know.
Well, there is a desperation that they're going to lose the House
I
next
was going
year.
to ask you about that. Two questions, Jacob. What do you think about the audit, and what about 2022 midterms?
If it was a purely democratic process, the Republicans, and not that all of them are that great, would be likely to retake the Senate and very likely to retake the House. Therefore, there is a scramble to do certain things. One, to preserve power. One, to get as much left-wing legislation through Congress to Biden's death as fast as you can.
Yeah, they're shoveling it.
Okay, in case they lose and don't have the majority. That's the first. The second is to keep the audits where the election counts are suspect from gaining any momentum or suppressing election audits so they can do it again. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona. They don't want independent audits of what happened in the last presidential election. They want a system that is corrupt. Okay. The third thing they want to do is bring in illegal immigrants and give the illegal immigrants the right to vote quickly. In California, you've seen it. You go to get your, when I had a California license, they were registering people with no questions asked to vote.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those people were illegal. They want this. They are trying to take these illegal immigrants and put them in swing states. You have this crazy congressman named Ryan from Ohio, a Democrat, who wants to budget in order to hire illegal immigrants to work in the U.S. Capitol as congressional staff. Those are the acts of desperation they are resorting to, as well as trying to call anyone who disagrees with them a potential right-wing racist terrorist.
Yeah.
Which is 50% of the country.
Yeah. No, the government has been very open, Jacob, about working with big tech companies about suppressing, I would say suppressing the truth, but suppressing every opinion that doesn't agree with them. Now we have companies like Facebook, Google working with the government. Now you have the ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League, working with PayPal to determine if people can have a PayPal account or businesses can have a PayPal account according to their political views. If they don't agree with, if they're considered, I should say, maybe a basically a terrorist, if they're considered right-wing terrorists, they would be taken, their PayPal account could be taken away. Now you're affecting economy. Now you're affecting.
Of course, the ACLU is and the Southern Poverty Law Center are worse than the ADL. But let's talk about the ADL. Last week, America lost one of its truly great comedians, the last survivor of the old Borscht Belt, the Jewish Alps, as they were called when I was a kid, Jackie Mason, Jewish American comedian. I met Jackie Mason the first time in New York. My parents had known him many years ago, but I met him in New York with my daughter. And I met him again in London. We've talked, I didn't know him well, but we met, we knew, we would talk when we would meet up. And one of the things I respected about Jackie Mason was he hated the ADL. He hated B'nai B'rith and the Anti-Defamation League. He saw them as parasites who simply preyed on anti-Semitism for their own benefit.
Oh,
Well, he was ranked, but I have much more regard for like the Simon Wiesenthal Center than I do the ADL, because again, it's left-wing Jews. Left-wing Jews. He knows what these people were. Jackie Mason knew they were phony. There was this guy Fuchsman who used to run it. Jackie Mason couldn't stand him. See, Jackie Mason, I told him I was a believer, but he had been a rabbi at one time.
yeah, I was going to ask you. He was a religious
Yeah, but
background.
he had no problem with the fact, of my beliefs and things. But I mean, he was a nice, funny guy. He was as funny in real life as he was on a stage or in front of a TV camera. But Richard Pryor was the same, or Chris Rock is the same. They're black comedians, the way Jackie Mason was a Jewish comedian. And although I can't take the vulgarity of their language, they understand race as an industry. They make fun of it. Richard Pryor understood it was all a lot of manipulative bull.
They just got to keep it going.
He used to use the ineffable N-word, and Chris Rock the same. They saw through it. They told the truth. And honest blacks would go to the Apollo Theater to hear Chris Rock, and they'd be laughing for an hour and a half, 2 hours, because he was telling the truth. When you have to go to comedians to hear the truth because you're not getting it.
Yeah.
From elected officials, and you're not getting it from the clergy.
Yeah, from the church, which ought to
People going to comedians to get the truth. Most Americans see the press as their enemy. They said that. Yes. A clear majority said the press was their enemy. The only thing more disrespected than social media and mainstream media by the American public was Congress.
Unbelievable. You're right about the truth, that the church has to be the bulwark of truth. It has to be the pillar of truth. But not according to the Southern Baptists, J.D. Greer said the church has to be the spokesman for homosexual and lesbian rights. Yeah, FBC is in trouble. It'd been in trouble, but even more now. Jacob,
it ought to drop dead.
The feds have been printing money, as you know, for quite a long time, but more than ever the last couple of years. They just got into another quantitative easing, printing more money, but buying debt. China's market is melting like an ice cream in Palm Desert in July. The bonds, the Forex. I mean, I got a list of companies here, 50, 60, 70% market cap hit over a week. China's market's in trouble. U.S. market's in trouble. Global markets are in trouble. Australia's in trouble.
About 4 years ago, the Chinese stock market, I'm talking now the equity, I'm talking about the securities exchange. They had a 1929 crash.
Ooh.
That crash they had a few years ago was like the equivalent to 1929, where the government stepped in and stopped all trading. And it was just government interventionism. Now, you can do that. You can use government interventionism to prevent a disaster short term at the expense of making a worse disaster long term.
Later, yeah. Now, Jacob, the yuan is really devalued right now versus the dollar. It took a big hit. Chinese manipulation to some degree to keep it that low.
Of course, for exports.
Okay, because that's what we're saying. Is it going to affect other markets? I mean, a lot of people depend on China for their imports. Is it going to affect global supply chain?
In certain manufactured goods, yes. You will not see a big production reduction for exports happening anytime soon because of the weakness of their currency.
Okay.
In other words, they can sell this stuff cheap by undervaluing their currency against the dollar and against the euro and against the pound and whatever. They can do that. But when you do that, it equals internal inflation.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
It makes internal inflation.
Yeah, really bad.
Look, something's got to give. You know what I mean? It's like you can pack a grocery bag. You know, you can pack it and pack it and pack it and pack it, but sooner or later, something's got to give. Either something's got to come out or the bag is going to rip, but volumetrics don't lie. You know what I mean? You can only go for so long.
Yeah.
What the United States is doing now, I've warned, is what Japan did.
Oh, in the 90s. Yeah.
They're doing the same thing as Japan did. And they say, oh, look, Japan didn't collapse as a result of this or have hyperinflation. No, instead they had 6 recessions. And China overtook them.
Yeah, they are now.
And that's what they're doing to the United States.
Yeah.
And Yellen, that woman, well, she was in the Fed, she was a moron, and she's a moron she's from a really neighborhood in Brooklyn known for producing people who aren't too bright, speaking as a New Yorker, you know.